right, welcome back. As you could see, the Ikemesit Effiong is joining me right now. He's the head researcher at SBM Intelligence. Hello, Ikemesit, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Nancy. Good morning.
Good morning. We just have a few minutes to speak. Let's go straight ahead. Nigeria's inflation is galloping, is roaring, is soaring, is jumping, is climbing. Do you really see a way out of this, despite the MPC's decision on Tuesday to raise rates to 14% to try to control this roaring inflation?
There's only so much that adjusting the monetary policy rates can do. Nigeria is in this high inflation environment largely because of cost push factors, right? If Nigeria was in a demand pull inflationary environment where basically demand for goods and services is putting pressure on the available supply of said goods and services, then um, moving the NPR the way that the CBN has would have been a more effective tool. But right now, we're dealing with cost push factors, things like insecurity, for example, in people growing regions, things like the infrastructure deficit that continues to exact a high cost on the movement of food and the movement of other goods and business inputs across the country. You also have regulatory and policy challenges, right, like our import policies, like our foreign exchange management policies, again, which makes it difficult for economic participants in this environment, right, to do business in a smooth, in a seamless, and in a predictable manner. All of those things are continuing to apply pressure on prices. And of course, on top of all that, you have the wider geopolitical concerns around Russia, Ukraine, and how that has particularly impacted on the prices of grains, rice, wheat, and other key food items, which we largely source from countries that are now, currently in an active conflict situation. And so all of those things are factors that the monetary policy rate doesn't exactly account for. And so while the NPR move will go some way in tempering prices, in our opinion, in SBM, we don't get it to go far away.
Okay, Ikemesit, I know that you just released, at least your firm, SBM Intelligence just released the JOLAP Index, which you normally release 3 times a year. It was published this morning, and I'm just taking a look at it. How much does it take averagely now to cook a pot of jollof rice in Nigeria? I understand that you arrive at that once you put the cost of the ingredients such as rice, onions, curry, pepper, oil, and all of that. How much is it right now to cook a pot of jollof rice? Because the last time I spoke with your colleague, he did say, I think, about 8,500 naira on the average. What has changed, if there is anything that have indeed changed?
It's now at 9,311 naira on average across the country. So, how to look at the JOLAP index is that it's a weighted index. We basically compile how much it will cost to cook a pot of jollof rice, including a protein source. Chicken is the protein of choice that we use to calculate the index for a family of 5, which is what the National Bureau of Statistics says is the average size of the typical Nigerian household. Now, like you rightly said, that number is up from 8,500 plus, right, in the first quarter of this year. And again,
it can I say, okay, so let's just land on on what you were talking about earlier.
Okay, yeah, sure. So as I was saying, right, we calculate the jollof index, right, as the average cost of cooking a pot of jollof rice for a family of 5, which is the NBS's calculation, that is the average size of the typical Nigerian household. That figure is now up to 9,311 in the latest report, which, like you said, we released this morning. That's up from about 8,500 100 naira in the previous quarter. Again, underscoring that story around insecurity in key food growing regions, insecurity along key transport corridors, right, where both farming inputs as well as finished products are farm produce, right, transit from food growing regions to the major centers and the big markets right across Nigeria. We calculate the index for every geopolitical zone. We track 13 markets in about 8 Nigerian cities across all 6 geopolitical zones. And so this is a nationally representative picture of all of the issues that are continuing to impact on food prices in the country. And in effect, um, one of the key findings that we were able to glean in putting together this report, right, is that the security picture, as always, is continuing to remain a key cost item. But you also have a situation where uh, regulatory and quasi-regulatory structures around how markets are put together, who gets access to a market stall, for example, in some of the big markets, their increase in rents and tenement rates, right, for some of the markets, and some of those costs are also being passed on to the average consumer. This was certainly the case in Lagos and in Ibadan, which are two of the markets that we track. And also that jollof, the price of preparing jollof rice in the northern states itself, historically, according to our index, it's been cheaper to actually consume jollof rice in the north just because those domestic supply chains are a lot more interlinked and transportation costs aren't as significant as trying to move things like tomatoes and peppers and other spices from north to south. That particular trend actually reversed in this particular report. And so you are seeing that in a lot of the northern markets, the price or the cost of those key inputs that go into your average plate or pot of jollof rice is actually a lot higher now. It's increasing at a higher clip in the north.
Okay, Ikemesit, I know you just have like a minute with us or two before you jet out. I'll just want you in a few seconds to talk about that buyers are complementing their cooking with flavors to cover for the absence of proteins. What do you guys really mean by that? Is it that they are not buying meats and fish and chicken any longer? They are cooking with flavors. So like is it chicken powder, beef powder, and all of that to disguise for proteins? Has it really gotten to that extent?
It's a sad reflection of the reality, but yes, we are finding from a lot of the people that we speak to in these markets, both on the selling and on the purchasing side, that there's a fair amount of input substitution that's going on. And yes, like you rightly said, there are people that use things like like chicken powder flavor in order to substitute for that. This is also something that um, international or multilateral organizations, right, have zeroed in on when they talk about the fact that the amount of or the number of Nigerians who will now be classified as food insecure would actually increase. I think the WHO, rather the FAO number, the Food and Agricultural Organization number now is that 9 million more Nigerians would be classified as food insecure at the end of the year. For a very long time, Nigerians have begged off and things like chicken and turkey and cut down on the size of beef. For many Nigerians, protein is now a luxury that they have maybe a couple of times a month or at most once a week. Fish, which had been the substitute protein source of choice, is increasingly disappearing from a lot of lower income Nigerian plates, right, when dinner time comes around. And unfortunately, what you are seeing now with sort of the latest versions of the JOLAP Index that we're publishing is that that particular trend is only deepening. It is sad, it is unfortunate, but for people who are making the calculation that it's better to have something to eat at the end of the day, right? However, however poor are the quality of of the meal is than to have enough at all. And so some of those food substitution choices are really, really coming to a head now in this cycle. And we don't think that there's anything that would necessarily make that change in the coming months and quarters ahead, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Ikemesit. I think I need to let you go now because I'm aware you're going for a meeting. We will come back to this discussion because we haven't really, exhausted the issue of roaring inflation and perhaps the high price of food and taking a look at what the authorities are doing to tame inflation and perhaps also the relationship between what's happening globally and the implications for the Nigerian economy. So thank you very much. I'll get back to you again. We will secure another date to continue this discussion. Thank you.